Hey,
And
everybody.
hello, welcome to the Epic Hour.
Sorry, we're running a little bit late. Shocker.
Actually, I think it's only a minute according to the computer, maybe two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, we're not doing too bad.
yeah,
We were a
that's
little
pretty good.
flustered trying to get everything set
Yes,
up, and it's been a heavy day. We actually had a staff barbecue today.
it was great.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Uh,
How many employees do we have right now?
we have 70, so it was interesting trying to set everything up with all the policies that are out there. And because we have a giant 10,000 square foot warehouse, it worked because we could spread everybody out. And we had our wonderful Subway COVID lineup for the food. It was fabulous. So we got her done.
Yeah, it was really good. And we had some really cool door prizes and all that fun stuff. And it's really interesting because, as I was going around and, well, I know Alisa made rounds introducing herself to people she doesn't know. And same thing with me, because again, I just don't really deal with that side of the company. I'm more with the investors and everything. And I'm like, hi, who are you? Who are you? I'm Rochelle, whatever. And it was kind of nice just to be able to say hi to everybody. And it was funny because there's certain people that only work with certain people because we just have so many different crews and everything. And I was like, go mingle, go meet everybody. But yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
So I hope everybody's having an awesome week. I couldn't even tell you what day of the week it is. Apparently it looks like it's Wednesday. So who knew? Feels like I've had 3 Fridays this week.
I keep telling everybody Friday's tomorrow. It's not.
No, yeah, it's been a big week for us. So
Yeah.
What have we done so far this week? So we are closing 11 hassle-free landlord houses again. That's cool. Awesome. We are well on our way to getting our 50 houses in 60 days. So woo woo. And then how many houses did you buy this week?
7. Yes, thank you.
7.
I was going to say 6, but it was 7. Yeah.
$1.4 million worth of real estate that we had to put together. And a lot of them came in at the last minute because I'd gone to Alisa and I said, go get me houses. And so Bailey and I worked really late last night getting everybody onto new deals. So if any of you guys are current investors who are funding new deals, feel free to give a hell yeah in the comments. And yeah, that's about it. So if you guys have any questions, we would love to hear them. So, read them. So if you just want to give a quick shout out in the chats, I think there's a Q&A section, all that fancy stuff. We've got the girls here, so they can definitely get you into our sequence here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess this is part 2 of our last Epic Hour.
Yes. And also, are we going to tell them where we're filming and why?
Sure.
Okay.
So we're in my office. So we actually, honestly, we try to bring you a new Airbnb every time we film,
or location.
Yeah. Location. I'm partial to the Airbnbs, but we actually had 0 vacancies, which isn't a bad thing. So we were trying to brainstorm and bring you a new location. And I told Alisa, I said, Bailey and I worked 15 hours here from 10 in the morning till 1 in the morning on Saturday, completely ripping apart this entire office, restructuring it so that we can work in a more organized space. So for those of you who know, most of the time I spend on the road. My assistant actually works out of here. I had to let my assistant go on Thursday, so it's been an extra busy week. Luckily, we had a helper, and Bailey and I have been coming in here and restructuring everything, and it's been fun. But systems and organization, that's a big deal, and we knew that we had to step up and make everything more fluid, and things are happening really well, and we just want to make sure that things keep running smoothly so that when things are ready and borders are open again, we're ready to go to the States. So yeah, but it's fun and it's good, and it needed to happen. So I figured we may as well take you on a quick tour of my little office. So it's not too crazy in here. I mean, it's not huge. You can kind of see the filing system behind us. So we got all these new bins. So those are all our working hassle-free landlord deals. We've got binders and lots of different things and all that stuff. So Score was Staples had these bins on sale. They were $21.99 on sale for $8.99. We actually went and bought 30 of them. I used 10 in my office, and then the rest will get used organizing the office. Because honestly, I know we have a lot of paperwork, and I know that we are going more digital, but honestly, there's just certain things that need to be paper-based. It's just the reality of our situation, and eventually want to get over to the cloud, but it's just where we're at right now. So
Yeah.
Alisa's all into the digital and the fancy and whatever. And I'm like, give me the paper, man. Give me the
I'm
paper.
I'm not into fancy. I'm just into it can be accessed from anywhere.
For sure. So we actually have a question here. So Evan's asking, how fast can a new investor get into their first deal with you? So honestly,
how
Evan,
fast can you move?
Yeah, exactly. We can move pretty quick. So it's really just dependent on the client. So when it comes to a hassle-free landlord deal, really, if you're gung-ho and ready to move, then we could basically get you onto a new hassle-free landlord deal in as little as 3 weeks. We generally like to do 4 weeks just to give the mortgage brokers enough time. And so everybody's not stressing. We got a couple days in between if we have to get stuff to the lawyer, but really, you would go to the mortgage broker, get a pre-approval, come back to us, pick a property. We put you in touch with a realtor. You write the offer, get that offer signed and back. We get that to the mortgage broker. Mortgage broker books the appraisal. Appraiser gets into the property. We get that back to the mortgage broker. Mortgage broker goes back for final approval. The minute that that's done, we get you in touch with a lawyer. You go sign with a lawyer. You get the paperwork and documents back to us. Boom, you buy the hassle-free landlord house. So it can move pretty quick, but you do definitely need to make sure you're on it and respond to all the emails and, do all the prompts and do all the things. So 3 to 4 weeks for a hassle-free landlord deal. Fun to flip. Honestly, if it's cash, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days,
say a few days,
5 days. Yeah. We keep them in queue and we buy a lot of houses. So again, we work with the investors and if it's Olympia Trust takes a few more days, especially if you have to transfer funds over. That could take up to 4 to 6 weeks just to get your funds transferred out of, Manulife or whatever investors group, or if it's in the stock market, that can take a few weeks to happen. But again, we can coach you through and prompt you all through it. So we just move as fast as our clients can, but we're here for you and we'll support you all the way through. Okay. So here's another question. We had one emailed in. Again, don't forget, guys, we want you guys to control the show and to be able to get your questions answered. We devote this hour for you guys, and that's what we want to do. So we appreciate you being here, and everybody who's going to watch the recording, we appreciate you too. But in the meantime, we'll just answer this question we have, and then we actually have a few webinar topics continued from last week too. So what's this one?
It says, did Epic Alliance apply to be a housing provider for subsidized housing? How do you market your property for specific tenants? Is there a difference in price range when a place is being rented subsidized renter against a regular normal renter? So I'll answer all of these. No, we didn't apply for subsidized housing. It's not really what we do here. We just provide safe, sound, and secure housing for tenants on social services. So completely different model. How do we attract those tenants? There's a few ways. Honestly, Facebook advertising and Kijiji advertising. We also have a large enough tenant pool base, word of mouth. You'll get a mom that rents from us, then she tells her sister, so her sister starts renting from us, and so on and so on and so on, right? So that's probably word of mouth is our biggest one, but we do utilize Facebook and we do utilize Kijiji for renting. Then is there a price difference between normal? Yeah, actually our social service houses are priced based on allowances that those tenants get for rent. So an example here in Saskatchewan, again, this is different for every province, right? But here, a standard individual gets $459. Okay. So the way we kind of price our houses is if it's a 3-bedroom house, we're going to charge $459 times 3 for that property, because in social services world, those math numbers work. Okay. So roughly that's $1,500 for that house. Now, a working couple, typically we're going to look at that house, its location, and we're just going to base it on what is market rent for the area. So that it differs a little. That house may be a little higher or that house may be a little less depending on where it is. So that's how we do it. Again, it's based on Saskatoon.
Yeah, and that check amount, the $459, that is just for their housing allowance.
Yes.
Because they still get extra money for their basic and living and food.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
and there's so many different programs and different things. And we've now, our houses are liked by so many groups as well. We're doing a lot more of furnished rentals for social housing. It's actually solving a major problem because a lot of people, they're on their own and they can't buddy up with other family members. So that $459 or $500 for a room furnished is working really, really well for us. And I mean, when we get the furniture, we're just getting stuff off Kijiji, and it's got nothing crazy, just a good sized bed, a nightstand, a dresser. That's basically it. And the programs are loving it, that on the social service programs. So again, it just is that whole pivot and adapting. What do your clients need, and what can you service them with? Because it's going to come down to that, to how do you fill your properties. Well, you need to pick the clients you're working with. I think that's where, when people get rental properties, they're just going to throw up an ad and hope a renter comes along, right? No, figure out what kind of people want to live in your neighborhood. Figure out what kind of people can afford your property. Then go after those kind of individuals.
Yeah. And another hint there, I guess, if you're going to be a hands-on landlord, is don't try and rent to somebody who won't rent in that specific market. For example, we've bought brand new builds from builders who are building in the core, in the hood. Like, what are you doing? A homeowner's not going to buy there just because the land was cheap and you built a nice house, dude. Like, your tenant or your neighbor might be a gang member. Like, are you going to raise your babies there in that nice new house because it's cheap? No. So for us, we ended up buying these houses, turning them into hassle-free landlord houses. Again, we don't rent to gang members and stuff like that, but you can't control what the neighbors are doing. To an extent, we have ways, but it is what it is, right? And a lot of times our ways will be just buy the house from the distressed landlord who owns the gang house next door. I guess that's what happens when you're buying dozens of houses a month, right? And so you can just play at a different level, and you can actually start cleaning up blocks and areas, and have a ripple effect. And that's kind of the goal for where we're at. And then same thing with opening up the next city we're going to be launching. It's interesting because people are like, nobody buys there. We're like, oh, okay, sure. Nothing's happening. It's all good. Yeah.
Don't look.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah. We're just rewriting an entire market. No big deal, right? Okay. And it's quite interesting, actually. And we will delve into how that took place at the end of the day when we, have our 50 to 75 houses and we're going public with it. But it's quite interesting because for us, we wanted to go and buy houses, and there's no comps because the market is so sleepy that when the appraisers go in to do an appraisal, they're like, I got nothing to appraise it against. So they have to go to the next largest city center and use those valuations because nothing in that town has moved for a long time, right? So anyway, that's a whole other tirade, and we'll get into that in the next maybe 6 months or something. But it's just really interesting. So this is what I find is so fun with the real estate investing is if it's not working in your market or in your backyard, pivot, or, either switch what it is you're wanting to do, like your methodology or your whatever it is. I'm tired tonight. I apologize. But your strategy, there we go, strategy. Or move to a different place where the strategy that you want to do works.
Yeah.
Right. You can't just be like, oh, but I saw Epic Alliance doing it. Right. Yeah. I had somebody who reached out today and they saw some Matt McKeever stuff and whatnot. And he's like, oh, well, I moved to this small town because I'm going to do what you guys are doing. I'm like, dude, you're in Ontario. If you try to do what we're doing, you're going to go bankrupt. Like, I'm sorry, not sorry. It just doesn't work because if you get stuck with a whole bunch of professional tenants, you can physically, like you won't, unless you have like an endless supply of money, you're never going to be able to afford to pay your investment partners and to pay for these basically people who are squatting in your property. It just physically won't work. Right. So I'm like, again, when people don't do their full research, and they are just like, oh, well, I saw it on TV, or, I know somebody who does it. I'm like, oh gosh, please don't get yourself in trouble because that will not be cool. Anyway, I digress. Okay. So Donna Hoskins has a fund to flip question. Bailey's going to read it because it's long, she says.
So what happens when the TFSA investment portion in a fund to flip gets around the $100,000 mark, since your house prices are around $300,000 and the mortgage portion is about 3 times the TFSA? So the price would have to be in the 400,000 range, correct?
Yeah. So good question from Donna. So this is to do with the ninja flip, because we talk about the ninja flip, right? Where we're pairing the TFSA with a larger amount of money, be it a home equity line of credit, an RSP, cash, whatever. It's a weighting. And so in order to get the 29% with the jacked up TFSA, the interest rate has to come from somewhere else if you're splitting it off of your 10% annual rate of return. So eventually the TFSAs are going to grow disproportionately to the other amount of money, right? Because this one's growing at 29% every time you get paid out, and the other one's only growing at 4%. Right? So you can see where all of a sudden it's going to not balance out to get the full 29% into the TFSA. So what would happen is we would just split it over 2 properties. So you would just do a $200,000 deal times 2. So again, we always work with people where they're at. And so at the end of the day, this is why we always encourage you to book in a discovery session phone call so we can literally run your numbers to figure out what gets you to your future financial goals even faster. And, you know, I can talk theories for days, but I always tell people it's more like choose your own adventure, right? When somebody hasn't worked with us before and they really want me to dig in deep and do a proposal for them, what works best is if I know exactly what your financial goals are, and then I know exactly what you're working with. So do you have underperforming invested funds? Do you have home equity line of credit? Do you have cash? Do you have properties that you could refinance to tap into equity? If we know all of that and we know your financial goals, we run you the proposal. You decide what you want to do. Maybe you want to do one deal. Maybe you want to do all the deals. Doesn't matter to us. We want to make sure it's a good fit for you. And yeah, that's where you go. And, you know, everybody does it differently. We got some clients who start with one deal and 6 months later, they come and do another. A year later, they do another, whatever. Or we got people who come in and buy 3 houses. Boom, let's go. Right. So we work at your pace. You control it all. We don't do high pressure, guys. If anybody's worked with us in the past, like, you know that we are looking for people who are our people, people who align with us, have good integrity, good morals, and they're just good people, right? So again, I do not deal well with ego and entitlement. I will take you to school if you try bringing any of that stuff around here. And yeah, again, it's, you know, you're our people or you're not. It's just the way it is. So anyway,
True.
so I hope that answered that question. Any more questions? No? Okay. All right. So we'll get back to our webinar topics that we were covering on the conversation from last week. So the one topic, should you invest in real estate personally or make it a business?
Well, it depends.
What a lawyer answer.
Right? I know. No, again, it goes back to the choose your own adventure. What are you doing with it? Where are you trying to go with it? You don't need to make it a business as in like put everything in a corporation and all those kinds of things. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm using an example. Okay. If, you know, your goal or mission is to only have 2 or 3 or 4 houses, you don't really need to go to those extremes or those levels. Okay. There are other things you can do to protect yourself. Have bigger insurance policies, those kinds of things. The making it a business, again, also depends on lots of things. Are you an active or a passive investor? Well, if you're going to take the active side and your aspiration is to have 10 or 15 or 20 houses, yes, then you need to set it up right from the get-go as a business. It'll save you down the road. So again, this is why having a strategy call, having those questions answered by either myself or Rochelle are so critical, because, you know, you don't need to go spend $7,000 setting up a 3-tier corporation. If you're only going to have 3 or 4 houses, it'll be it's not going to be worth the funds that you put out and all the expense of doing the taxes under a corporation and those kinds of things for the amount that you're buying, right? There's a balance here. And if you're not going to take it to those next levels, honestly, 9 times out of 10, doing it personally is going to work just fine for your scenario.
Yeah. And I get a lot of people will say, you know, oh, I heard my lawyers say I should own everything in a corporation. And I'm like, yeah, of course your lawyer's going to say that because they want to go to the nth degree to protect anything that may go wrong, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, we don't live in a bubble and things could happen. There's ways to basically mitigate your risk,
Yep.
But really financially, it doesn't make sense usually if you have 4 or less properties to own them in a corporation, because every time you go to do your filing for taxes, that's going to be $1,500 to $2,000 just right there each year. Well, think about how much cash flow you need to be able to cover that. That might just wipe out all the cash flow on one of your properties.
Mm-hmm.
So now, does it make financial sense? Like, you know, again, get better insurance. And the other thing, the caveat there is that we're in Canada.
Mhm.
We're not as sue happy here as in the States. In the States, things are very different. We are even restructuring our entire US business completely different than we do in Canada. We are going to have 1 or 2 properties per corporation instead of having a large amount in one, just because we know that if something will go wrong, and again, just like in Canada where people say, when you have more properties, it's not if you have a house fire, it's when you have a house fire. It's going to be the same thing. And more, I think, in the States is it's not a matter of if you get sued, it's a matter of when. And so you just got to make sure you go in there and, you prep everything as well as you can and go from there.
So yeah, again, those are deeper questions to dive into. Honestly, to some degree, you can always reach out to us, but then it'll come down to your accountant, your vision, and your lawyer.
For sure. Yeah, it's very personal. All right, next question.
What to look for when buying a rental property at the 1% rule?
And the 1%.
Oh, and the 1% rule. My apologies. So there's a lot of things there. Again, this will go back to before you want to pick the rental property, figure out your niche of client you're going to service. Okay. You don't go buy the same house that you buy for a social service tenant as you do for a student rental. Okay. They're different types of people, right? So that to me, I think would be the first thing you would want to look at. Well, who do I feel are the type of tenants I could best work with or is available in my niche or my market, right? If you're wanting students and like student rentals, but you live in a small city and there's no schools there, no university, yeah, probably don't want to go after that demographic because it's not there, right? So, again, that's what you got to look at for looking at your rental properties. Now, to break out the 1% rule, you want to get that or?
Sure. Yeah. The 1% rule, again, some people say it's stupid. Some people say, it doesn't work. That's how we buy houses, guys. Again, if it's not working in your market,
3 minutes.
it's not working in your market, pivot. Again, this is a cash flow play.
Yes.
That's
and
all
this
it
is a wealth building play. It's a long term. We're not, you don't do 1% rule for flipping houses. It's different.
No. So really it comes down to the 1% rule for those of you who might not know. In quick math, it's just if you were to buy a property for $150,000, you would want to look for a property that's going to rent for 1% of that, which would be $1,500. Yeah. Now, again, if it's, a $300,000 property, can you rent that property for $3,000 a month?
Maybe.
If it's got 2 suites, you can, right? But usually a single family home, which is the average house price in Saskatoon here with $300,000 property, a single family home is not going to cash flow. It doesn't matter how you cut it. It's just not going to cash flow. No. So at the end of the day, when you do numbers or the quick math on the 1% rule, which again is how we aim to buy, if you go to buy a property, okay, with the 1% rule, the nuts and bolts, I guess, is in a perfect world, and I get this, we know a perfect world does not exist, but let's just say that there was no property management fees, no maintenance, no repairs. You had the perfect dream tenants who were going to stay there and never complain. That doesn't exist. But at the end of the day, this is what we just kind of run. So with the 1% rule, that in theory, on your 20% down payment, you should be able to make a 30% annual rate of return on the cash invested in that deal. So that's how we ran the numbers to run with our hassle-free landlord program. We were like, okay, so in theory, if we should be able to make 30%, we'll pay the investors half, 15%, and then we might make 15%, or we might be negative 15, but for us, it's a volume play, right? Because again, if you have 2 houses, one of them is up 15, one of them is down 15, well, you're net zero. There you go. What happens if both your properties turn into negatives? Oops,
not good.
Right?
No.
And so that's where the risk mitigation is. And that's what we do for our clients because we basically take on all the risk and then our investors just get the upside. And so at the end of the day, when you look at our numbers and how we're buying, we are not making 15% annual rate of return on these houses. I guarantee you that. But at the end of the day, that wasn't the goal, right? So for us, if we looked at all of our houses, and, we have some losers, we have some winners, everything's kind of all over the place, but we're probably making about 5% annual rate of return per property. Again, most of our investors take the cash flow, so it's not coming a monthly cash flow, that's coming in the equity form of us keeping the principal pay down. So on our side, it's a long-term play, But at the end of the day, we're making that on $0 into that deal because we're leveraging our systems, teams, and knowledge. Not bad, right? And meanwhile, our investors are super happy because they're getting their needs met because you know that you have your money invested. It's secured by your property. You got people on your side who are dealing with all the things. And that's where the win-win synergy comes in. That's really how we run it. So, I've had discovery session phone calls with people who are running student rentals in Windsor or London or wherever they may be. And they're like, wait, I buy at the 1% rule. I'm already making 15% on my money.
Great.
Good. Go buy more of those then.
Yes.
We're not for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. And if you already are an active investor and you can go and do more of it, by all means, do the things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
We're here to partner with the people that want passive real estate investments, and they want Rochelle and I to do the things, right?
Yeah, and our team.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it gets broken out, and that's how it works and why it works as well as it does. And back to what Rochelle was saying about, okay, so we average that 5% per house. You have to understand that's over hundreds of houses, right? So when that turns into thousands of houses and then tens of thousands of houses,
that's the magic.
We're pretty happy.
Yeah, for sure. So at the end of the day, for us, again, it's a long-term play. It's not like we did this and we were like, oh, we're millionaires. Again, it's a long-term play. When we hit that $1 billion worth of properties under our control, we'll be doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, so will our investors. So will our team.
Get the jet.
Right? You just got to stay tuned. But in the meantime, join us on our journey to $1 billion, right? It's kind of a cool thing because you guys got to be in on the ground floor for a lot of you. People who are like, I was in before the first 100 million.
Mm-hmm.
How epic is that to say, I was there when those girls were doing those evening things and we had like 10 people on the call.
Yeah.
Right? How cool is that going to be when all of a sudden we're doing these and we've got 1,000 people on the call weekly, right? And, we're going to not be able to take all the questions from everybody and answer everything right now, right? So pretty interesting times. We got a lot of different things happening. And we're just glad you guys are here and we're able to share this. So we have another question.
Yeah. Evan, realistically, what are the biggest risks for investors? Well, that's a great question. And we hear this one a lot. So again, it depends on which area you're looking at. Let's talk HFLP because that's kind of our main focus right now. You, as the investor, your biggest security is you own the house, okay? So some of your biggest risks are, okay, tomorrow our company could get run over by unicorns and we don't exist. If that was to happen, getting run over by unicorns, then you as the investor would have free and clear control of a cash flowing rental property.
Yeah. The way the contracts are stated is that if we don't pay you the full rent on the first of the month, within 15 days, our contract dissolves. So we have no rights to any of the principal pay down we've built up in the property, and we have no rights to the locked in purchase price, which is how we get paid in these deals, right? Because again, we always said, if something were to happen, we never wanted to make, have our clients or our investors stuck in litigation. Right? Because that would be the worst. If you lost control of your property and you couldn't go and take over the tenants, you couldn't sell the property, you were stuck. Like that's crazy. Again, if you compare it to a syndicated deal where you're literally just a little piece of a bigger deal.
Think of a bag of frozen peas. You're one of the peas in the frozen bag.
So then something goes wrong there. I mean, good luck getting even, a piece of frost out of that, because at the end of the day, you're going to be tied up in litigation forever. So this way, we didn't take any money from you.
Yeah.
We didn't take money and run off. That's not even an option. We're just going into a partnership with you, and that's how it works. So again, this is why we help the little guys, because we want to make sure that everybody is still really secure and they have their own brick and mortar that they are secured on.
There you go.
That's kind of the way we have it. Strategize. So risky. I mean, we know we're going to be here for a long time.
Yeah, we're literally building this company out. A lot of people, that was initially, I think a lot of people's fear when they started pairing with us in these projects is, well, what happens if something happened to you two? That was a legitimate question. So we just broke that out. Now we're getting to a point where we're getting amazing team leaders. It was cool. We talked about the barbecue at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
it was so cool to see our teams together. And, we broke out some of the numbers for them on some of the projects they've worked on and what they with their hard work have achieved for the company. Right. So that's awesome. And with that, I mean, our next level and step is taking this company to where it has a board of directors and it has CEOs and it has those people that it keeps going. I mean, we're going to live on with the company based on we're the character, right? We're going to take ourselves and we're going to keep building out awesome opportunities for people, amazing products and companies. Right now, our focus is get us to that billion. But then after that, who knows what we're going to create or what we're going to build out or what we're going to do. That's what's cool. That's our idea of a retirement, right? So that is how this will keep going. We are continuously growing. I'm literally talking with the lawyer out of Toronto about those things. Okay, how do we, take our shareholder agreements, create those kinds of things? How do we, how do you bring in board of directors? How do they have control? How do they not have control? We're always going to have a pulse on this company. But at the same time, we are always backing ourselves. Every month, you could see it. If somebody comes and spends a couple of days with us, you can see how we slowly have backed ourselves out. And we will continue to do that and replace ourselves with that person, right? It's taking a lot of people to replace us because Rochelle and I built it from the ground floor. So we need to make sure those people we're putting into place to run this company are going to care about it, groom it, grow it like we want it to be grown.
Mm-hmm. And it's, again, attracting the right people, and it's an energy thing. And it's really interesting because it's kind of like we put it out there. Hey, we need somebody who's at this level. We need somebody who can do these things and these things and these things. And then all of a sudden, boom, they show up. And, like, let's talk about Bailey, for example, right? So Bailey, say hi. So for Bailey, like her story is incredible, right? Because she came in to interview for Alisa's assistant position.
She did.
Right. And then all of a sudden I was in the States, right? I don't do much of the hiring and such. I was in the States and I got a phone call from Alisa. I'm like, hey, how's your interview going? Oh yeah, really good. I'm so torn between these two girls. They seem like they'd be really awesome. Here's the pros and cons of this one. Here's the pros and cons of this one. I'm kind of leaning towards the one, but honestly, the other one just really belongs here. And, for me, I was like, okay, well, whatever, like hire them both, whatever, like it's just, we need people, right? And so
we need the right people.
We need the right people, yeah. But we know we're going to need more of the right people. And so then from there,
I ended up not picking Bailey at first. And I ended up getting Jen. Some of you may have talked to Jen, my assistant. And there was multiple reasons for that. It was actually Ashley, who's part of our social media team, and I who had interviewed them. And Jen is my assistant right now, and somebody I'm potentially grooming to replace me as project manager for all the things in the office here. And I was leaning towards her and it just came down to Jen is closer to my age, has a little more life experience, which is sometimes valuable for problem solving or handling a large amount of people and all of them coming at you and that kind of thing. That was my only, honestly, reason that I went with Jen over Bailey, but I couldn't let go of the Bailey. I was just like, there's something, there's going to be something, this is going to happen. Right. And it was funny because finally something did come up and I'm like, call the Bailey, we're going to bring on the Bailey.
And it was so funny because literally Alisa was like, there's something about this girl. I just can't get her out of my head. I'm like, go create a position then, but shut up. Like, just do it. Like seriously. Right. Cause for me, I'm very action oriented. Right. And I was just like, just do it, but just quit talking about it. Right. And so it worked out. So she ended up getting hired as a brand new position, which was a sales assistant. Right. And so got hired on and it was funny because Alisa's like, Rochelle, you're going to need an assistant on the road. And I was like, Alisa, let's be real. I don't people well. And I spend a lot of time on the road by myself, which I like. And, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, but you'll need an assistant, whatever. And I'm like,
I just can't do it.
No. And so anyway, it was super funny because again, this whole COVID thing started, right? So then I ended up coming back home and then, I got to meet Bailey and she was working with Brad, who's doing the sales and such. And so Bailey was killing killing it. She was doing all the LinkedIn messaging, all the behind the scenes stuff. So lots of the Facebook, Instagram. If anybody has commented on our post that way, you've been talking to the Bailey. And so from there, I really, just took a liking to her, and I was like, right. And so then I kind of do these little
Mama
tests.
Alisa got it right.
I'm like, and then anyway, there was a series of events, and then I really wanted to go hard with this whole 50 houses in 60 days campaign. So I was like, Bailey, you're coming with me. So I took her over as my sales assistant, and we literally just went in, created processes, systems, and everything. And we killed it. Yeah. So just Bailey and I have gotten 51 houses under contract in the last 45 days. So honestly, our affiliate partners are amazing. Our team's amazing.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's been her and I doing all the calls and everything. So pretty incredible. We work really well together. And it turns out that Alisa was right. So Bailey's actually going to come on the road with me when I go back on the road.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So
and you have to hear Bailey tell her version of it too.
Do you want to?
Sure.
Okay. So Bailey's going to tell her version of what happened.
So I was actually
just so they can hear you.
I was in a job that I didn't enjoy, and I remember seeing the posting for Alisa's assistant position. I was sitting in my truck, and I actually called my best friend, and I was like, one day I'm going to work for E.P.I.C, whether it be Alisa's assistant or whatever it may be. And I remember sitting there, I was like, this is the company for me. And I did research, and much like a lot of investors, I was like, this seems too good to be true. But it's not, now that I know. And so I didn't get the job as Alisa's assistant, unfortunately. And I remember the day it happened, I was at my job, still there, and Ashley had called me, and I actually started to cry. I sobbed my eyes out because I really wanted to work for E.P.I.C, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And a couple of months later, Ashley reached out to me again, and I was very, very eager to get on it, and I responded right away, and she left me hanging for 2 days.
Ashley.
I came in and I started working as a part of the team, and now here I am with Rochelle, and I'm loving every moment of it.
There you go.
Thanks, Bailey. Yeah. So
how's the company going to live on without us?
Yeah.
It's the Baileys.
Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, that's just really what it comes down to. So I have been, so impressed with Bailey's work ethic, and it's wild because I have always had a hard time finding people who could keep up with me. And again, Alisa does really, really well, but she still has family commitments, right? And so for me, I work all around the clock. I work really, really late. And it was so funny because this Saturday when we were working in the office, and I was like, girl, you got to still drive, across town to get home. It was 10 o'clock. I'm like, we've been here for 12 hours. It's been a long day. We are not going home until this job is done. Okay, I'm with you, girl. Let's do this, right? And again, here I am, like, just wanting to make sure she's taken care of. And she's like, no, we're doing this. So, again, it's really great when you find your groove, you find your people. And that's really where we're at right now. And I mean, we're just like making the things happen. So our next project is actually, and this is like, I'm super stoked about this, and I've been planting seeds. Some of you guys might have had calls with me, and I've kind of thrown it out there. But we're actually going to start our affiliate army. So it's pretty interesting because so many people I've talked to are like, oh, I didn't even know you offered referral fees, and how do I answer these questions and stuff. So we're actually, again, we got to get through this 50 houses in 60 days, which ends mid-June. But after that, we're really going to be launching amazing things to really promote other people talking about our products. Because I always say we're like Canada's best kept secret. And honestly,
not anymore.
And financial literacy, guys, should not be a secret.
Nope.
It's brutal. Like, I don't know how many people I talk to in a day where I say, hey, do you have any underperforming invested funds? And they're like, oh, well, I have mutual funds. Right? Everybody has mutual funds. Everybody lost money in the stock market.
Underperforming.
Right? And
mutual funds.
And it's so interesting because I will say, sorry, I just got to correct you for a minute. You think that everybody has money in the mutual funds and that everybody has their registered funds invested there, but I'm sorry, that's a fallacy because our clients don't. They're actually covered and I guess by brick and mortar because they're backing our properties, right? And with the investment. And at the end of the day, all of our investors have gone up repeatedly, consistently every single year. And if you run the rule of 72, I don't know how many of you guys know that, but there's that adage, the rule, or it's a formula, but the rule of 72, if you take your interest rate that you're getting on your funds, okay, so let's say that it's 10%. So you take the rule of 72, you divide the 10% in there. So in 7.2 years, essentially, your funds will double in value, right? So you can literally write the next 25 years of investing with us and boom, you know your numbers, right? Now, compare that to putting your money in the stock market. Can you do that there? Yeah, unless you had a crystal ball. No. And that's scary when you're literally like this. And it's like, what do you do with that? Like it's crazy stuff. So anyway, I'm not going to talk about that anymore and whatnot. But did we have another question?
Yes. Evan, down the road, if it makes sense, can I pull out equity from one of the homes to invest?
So not if you were getting all the cash flow, because then that equity is ours.
Yeah. So you can't quite have your cake and eat it too. So either the cash flow is going to you and we're written in to keep that principal pay down, the mortgage pay down, excuse me, or we twist it or flip it and you're keeping that and we're getting the cash flow. So it can be set up for something like this. We do have clients that are set up like this because that was what they wanted. They're like, hey, I just want this to build up enough so that I can sell this one back to you and now I can get two.
Yeah, so we're doing one right now, actually. We buy it back on June 1st. So it was a hassle-free landlord owner who has been with us for 4 years. And when they first started, their financing needs or their financial needs were that they didn't need all cash flow. So they decided to take 50% principal pay down and then 50% in the equity position. So year 2 came around, they kept it the same. And then when they got the report card for year 4, they decided that now what they'd like to do is sell that property back to us, take the original 20% down payment out, plus they'll get the principal pay down paid to them. And then they want to requalify for another property. So right now the property that they own is a $135,000 house. So they started with a little one with us. And then the next house they're going to buy is for $175,000. So now, because they're going to have more of a down payment in there, their monthly rates are going to change, the monthly return. And then the other side of it too is that they wanted to switch it to all cash flow, right? So how cool is that you get to literally choose your own adventure every 2 years, right? Some investors decide to buy another additional house. Some investors decide to, whatever. Everybody's different. There's so many different ways it could go. But the biggest thing is you have control and it's customizable based on your wants and needs.
Yep. So really unique.
So Evan just has a follow-up question. I think you guys kind of answered it, but he said, was thinking more investing in another property with you guys so we could pull equity out of, there's one HFLP to invest in another.
So again, same thing. You can't pull the money if it's our money, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's not really that hard, right?
Yeah.
So if you're taking all cash flow, no, you cannot have our equity.
Yeah.
Right.
But you can line it up to expand, I think is where he's going. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so again, this is where it's kind of one-on-one. We can talk circles all day long, but it has to be customized to kind of your fit. So what most of our clients do, if they're looking to save up for another one, is most of them take all the cash flow, they throw that into a savings account, they put extra money in from referral fees or from their extra income. And then when they have enough, they come back and buy an additional house. That's usually what most people do, because any of the principal pay down that you keep is locked up in that property. And you can only get that out when you either sell back or buy us out of the deal. So,
okay.
All right.
How to choose a suitable market. Okay. So really and truly, again, that comes back to, are you willing to go to a market that isn't your backyard? What is your strategy? Are you flipping houses to grab the fast cash and the instant appreciation? Because certain markets work better for that. Can you flip in Saskatoon? Yes. Is it a lot harder to do? Yes. Why are we barely flipping to the public? Because right now it's a buyer's market. If you go in and you do a house and say everybody, you've done now, what is it? Satin, nickel, chrome, whatever finishes. This is Rochelle's area.
Yeah.
And everybody now, like you've seen the flip shows, everybody wants brass. So they come into your house and they're like, I know, but honestly, it's one of these things where you may have done that and then everybody walks through and wants brass and they're going to go down the road because they're going to know they're going to find one with the brass faucets and stuff. because it's a buyer's market. So yes, you can flip in this market. It's just so much more competitive. So it's a lot riskier. Where's a good place to flip? Toronto. It's your whatever you build, whatever you do to it, it's pretty much going to get bought on the spot, right? Those are amazing flipping markets. Again, there are people doing well at flipping properties in Saskatoon because they build a niche. They find and build a style of house to a certain style of people, and now they have a following. Okay, so again, it depends. So picking a suitable market, what are you doing in that market? What are you trying to achieve? Are you looking for cash flow? Well, then don't invest in Toronto. If you're looking for cash flow, you invest in the Saskatoons.
Well,
right?
The other thing is too, there's a lot of people in the Ontario market that are doing the duplex conversions, right? So if you can take a single family home and the zoning is right and turn it into 2 suites, it might turn into a cash flowing asset at that point.
That's right.
Right. So you just need to figure out what makes sense for your strategy.
Yeah.
But again, don't try and shove your strategy into something that it's not going to fit into, because it does not mesh well.
You basically have to look at the market to design your strategy. We had to.
Yeah.
We started flipping houses. We literally, our very first few projects were flips to the public. Then we noticed the market shifted, and we're like, now what?
Yeah, we shouldn't be sitting on these.
No,
we don't
this
have time.
what's
we pay
happening?
Too much money to
Yeah,
the investors.
yeah, like this
sense.
is silly.
Yeah.
And then that's when we pivoted and started, how can we partner with people and get into cash flowing rental properties, because we saw the value in that in this area in our backyard.
Yeah, for sure. And it's wild too, because lots of people were like, you girls are crazy. We're like, sure, do you want to join?
Yeah,
right.
That's
And
great.
Yeah, and again, the proof is in the pudding. We've been doing the House of Free Landlord program for 4.5 years now. We've taken 5 landlord portfolios over, taken other tired landlords out of the market, because everything has a time and a purpose. And when things get tough, sometimes people have already made their money. They don't need to stay. Right. So again, it's all about crafting win-win solutions and making just good scenarios drive for everybody. Yeah. Okay. And then the last question we have is how to vet potential tenants.
So we kind of covered that a little bit. So some of the, I guess people always want tricks and tips for this, right? So again, who are your tenants? What are you looking for? One of the things that is an amazing for dealing with tenants, your standard working tenants, let them do all the talking. Don't stand there and do the talking, because they don't need to learn about you. You need to learn everything about them. The best response you can give to someone you're vetting or interviewing to be a tenant is, interesting. Tell me more. Because you know what? People like to talk about themselves, a large portion of people anyways. And they will go on about their 6 kids and how they have 10 exes and 37 dogs. And then you can go, thank you very much for all of your time, and we will be talking in the near future. Thank you. Right? So that's a great tip to give to people. The other one is, oh my gosh, you guys, social media. Stalk people on social media. And when I mean that, I mean look them up, check them out, look at their pictures. Did they throw up a property with smashed walls and go, this was our last rental? Well, I wouldn't rent to them. Okay. So that's another amazing tool. Like, you can pretty much Google their name, figure it out. Okay. References, you know what the problem? It's easy for somebody to fake references. It really is. They put their Aunt Betty who pretends to be somebody, but you can there's ways
that you can confirm their references, right? So if you're going to call to vet a reference, so a lot of times people will be like, hey, Alyssa, I'm gonna put you down as reference, okay?
Yeah.
You're like, yeah,
sure.
I got you. I got you, right? Because what are you gonna what is the landlord gonna call and say? Hey, did you rent to these people? Yeah. Were they good? Yeah. Did they pay rent on time? Yeah. Okay. But how you catch them is you go to the application. And so say if they rented their last place from June 2013 to, last month or whatever, you're like, oh, okay, cool. So when did they move in? Oh yeah, I can't remember. Okay. Was it January in 2011? Yeah, that was it. Oh, okay, cool. So how long did they rent from you? Okay. Oh, how much did they pay again? I think it was this. Oh, weird. Cause they put on their application this. Oh, is that what it was? Right. So you catch them in their
Tripping
lies.
up.
I mean, you can
Yeah.
do this with humans too, but,
Yeah.
you know, again, it's just one of those things. Like, it's interesting. And so, you know, it's not that I want the worst for people, but people
No.
do a lot of shady shit. And
Mhm.
so it's just being 2 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And if people give you a fake reference, you really want to rent to them?
Mm-mm. And again, most honestly, a large portion of the tenant pool are not out to be, or they want to be, awful tenants or bad people. Okay, there's lots of good tenants out there. There's lots. I know a lot of people are struggling, or a portion of people are struggling, especially down east with the tenant strike and those kinds of things. But you know, I still am talking to people, and lots of them have said, "Yeah, I have, you know, one or two that haven't paid, but the rest over here are paying. I just kept my lines of communication open." So, you know, again, you got to go also off your gut and a vibe too when you're dealing with people. If you're the kind of person who is going to think doom and gloom the whole time, you're going to attract people that are doom and gloom. You just are. That's the nature of the beast. So, you know, something to keep in mind for those kinds of things. Another, there's certain questions you can and can't ask due to human rights laws and stuff like that. I had a list I should have brought tonight and I forgot, but it's a really good thing to know are those questions. You know, can you ask what their occupations are? Can you ask if they have kids? Can you not rent to people with kids
Or
or
pets
or those
smoking
kinds of things, right? Again, that changes from area to area to area. Again, you know, how do you put out a niche tenant? Honestly, we rent to people with pets because it's really hard, because most places say hell no, right? And we're like, you know what, 9 times out of 10 the pet is better behaved than some people's kids. So we've just found that it allows us to fill our places. We charge a pet fee, not a deposit, a fee, because a fee, for, again, this is for here, is non-refundable. I don't have to give it back. Okay, so if you want to charge $200, $300, $400, $500 in a pet fee, well, that'll cover off a lot of potential things that a pet will do.
Well, and we don't put carpet into any of our places.
No,
So
come on.
at the end of the day,
Yeah,
what's the point? It's
Yeah.
it's not a big deal, right?
yeah.
So
So
it's all
there
good.
you go.
Do we have any more questions? We're gonna wind up right away.
Yeah, I
We've
think
got
we're
like
getting
5 more
down.
minutes,
Yeah, is that where we're at? 5 minutes?
something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, if we have
Sweet.
any final questions. Last time we had so many questions, I think we hit a funny bone or something.
Yeah,
On the
we
last one,
touched
we
a
had so
nerve.
many questions. A nerve.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, no, a funny bone is the one that makes you cry, and that's why it's not funny.
But if we have any last minute questions, we'd love to answer them for you. And again, if you guys want to email any questions in, you can just send it to.
And honestly, they can be.
You can send it to ashley@epicalliance.ca.
Okay, we'll put it in the
Okay.
chat. So Ashley at Epicline.
And again, you guys, these can be any questions. It could be about real estate. It can be about personal development. We can potentially tell you some experiences we've had in that education. It can be business education. Anything that we, you know, might be able to help you with, ask the questions. We'll turn around, and if we can, great. We'll tell you an experience that we've had or give you what we can. If we can't, we may know someone who can help you, right? That's also the cool thing about, after being in the industry we've been in for as many years as we have, we don't even always have the answers. Sometimes it's we're picking up the phone because we just happen to know the person we can dial and call. You know, one of our people we still reach out to is one of our original mentors, coaches, Shelly Hagan. Amazing woman, never hesitates to answer our questions, give us the time. You know, we're so blessed that those are the kinds of knowledgeable and amazing, wonderful, spirited people that we've had in our lives. So again, that's the kind of thing that, you know, if you ask the question, we might just be able to find someone that can answer it, even if we can't.
Yeah, and it's wild too, because the Canadian real estate investing is actually kind of a small world. This morning, I actually had a phone call with a connection somebody had put me in touch with, and I might be on his podcast in the next week or two. But it was we have a former mentor in common, Ray Ostrander. So yeah, that was cool. So Ray was actually the sales guy who sold us the Rich Dad Real Estate Investing
sold
course.
Rochelle. I was already sold
when I went to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so from there, and then he was a Key Spire instructor for a while, or a salesperson or whatever. But anyway, cool guy. And it's just a small world. So it's pretty neat how, our paths interconnect and all that kind of stuff. So Evan says favorite book. So we actually did one of our epic hours based
Mhm.
on all of our favorite books. So
Yes.
we can, my favorite book for anything to do with mindset around real estate and money is Rich Dad Poor Dad, 100%. I feel like everybody's got to read that book.
Yeah.
As far as personal favorite book,
Wow, there's so many.
Yeah.
And that's why we did an hour-long version of favorite books.
Yeah.
I mean, I right now I'm reading a lot of Grant Cardone stuff. I'm always reading Brendan Burchard. But yeah, we literally, it's something we do a
Yeah.
lot of. We're always listening or reading books.
Yeah.
Just continuously. So, and it's funny because the ebbs and flows of that change based on what's a piece of something we need to grow in, or we're missing, or anything like that. There's one I'm reading on the leadership of speaking and those kinds of things. And, so it honestly, that list is always growing. I would just recommend, check out that epic hour where we talked about books literally for an hour. So, and again, favorite book can be all kinds of things. What's my favorite bathroom reading book? So, aka a fun book. Honestly, right now I'm reading a book by a friend of ours that passed away, Stefan Arnio, and I'm reading Strong Men and Hard
Times, Great Strong Men.
Yes, that one. Hard Times Create Strong Men. And, and that right now is classified as my fun book, right? As for my educational books I'm reading Sell or Be Sold. I'm reading I'm reading another Brendan Burchard one. I'm reading, we got 3 minutes on somebody's forehead. But anyways, I mean, check out that and it'll really, really help you be guided in an area. Because again, favorite book in personal development, in business, in leadership, in real estate training, in business training. It goes a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And
the E.P.I.C is another great one.
That one's for entrepreneurialism and stuff. Yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's just
it's
knowledge,
endless,
man.
Yeah.
So much. So yeah. Awesome. Well, we thank you guys all for joining us, and I hope you got some information on the Epic Hour. Again, please send your guys' topics.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess
even if you got to put asking for a friend, we'll still accept your question.
Oh goodness, that's a throwback to I think it was episode number 2.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched that one, that's a keeper.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna wind up here, and yes, in the meantime,
stay epic.
I literally